Check, check. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Am I live? Okay. Check, check, check. Hotel Senate, Cabo. Check, check, check. Hotel Senate, I'm gonna get started in a minute. Let me share the links real quick. Yeah, y'all just give me a minute. Okay. All right. Y'all just give me a second. I'm still trying to share real quick. I'll get started in just a minute. Think I would be good doing it by now. Dang. Anything I said. Expression. All right. I guess that's all I'll share too. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss nobody. Hold on, fam. I gotta do better with this. That's all I'm gonna share too. Hotep, Satep and Ra. Hotep, Senate Monica. Hotep, Maisha. Hotep Harold Smith. Hotep Alina. Hotep Jadoris. Peace, King, peace. Hotep, Lavelle, Leonard. Hope everybody doing good today. Hotep, I'm at Ma'at Ra. Hotep, Alex, peace to you, King. And tomorrow, I'm in my Aunt Ra, Sister Kaba, peace, Elmisburg. I'm in my Aunt Ra, Senate Kaba, Hotep Senate Monica, if I didn't speak to you. Y'all three, I'm doing another presentation tomorrow. I'm gonna discuss it a little bit at the end of this PowerPoint, and I think y'all three will enjoy it. Not say what the name is and give you an understanding of what the name is, so y'all can be tuned in tomorrow because the presentation is about y'all three, but it's about a few other people too. And I'm gonna do that tomorrow on my YouTube channel. But all right, I'm not gonna delay it. I'm finna go ahead and get started. My volume good out there? All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to make sure my volume's straight. All right.
Man in the full knowledge of himself is a superb and supreme picture of creation. When man becomes possessor of the knowledge of himself, he becomes master of his environment, the captain of his own ship, the director of his own destiny, the accomplisher of his own ends. Man should understand himself because man is full of knowledge, and this knowledge is a gift of nature. When Mother Nature created man, she deprived him of nothing. He was given the faculty of understanding all things around him. This faculty for understanding has not been taken away from him. None of his senses have been taken away from him. So there is no excuse for the black man. I'm raising my team, red, black, and green, queen, and king, salute, now scream, I say, bring forth another hit, I say, five, I'm raising my team, red, black, and green, queen, and king, salute, now scream, I say, bring forth another hit, I say, five,
Hotep, Menka. Okay, today's presentation is called African Drums, Oldest Instrument of Communication and the Heartbeat of the Culture presentation. That's a whole lot. And the African drums, oldest instrument of communication and the heartbeat of the culture. So we gonna dig into that, and why you'll see why I labeled it that, the African drum, the oldest instrument and an instrument of communication, and it's the heartbeat of the culture. All right, before I get started, I always have to give a disclaimer before I get started. The disclaimer is I am not a teacher, but merely a student sharing information. And that information provided is for the educational purpose only. And if you are in doubt, do the research or have it verified by someone qualified. I reserve the right to change the focus of this presentation, to shut down or sell or change the terms of use at my own discretion. All trademark designs, rights, copyrights, registers, names, mottos, logos, avatars, insignias, and marks used or cited by this website are the property of their respective owners. I reserve the right to add information as it comes available and or adapt changes, improve information as it comes available in the future. Inputs wanted, changes, additions, deletions are encouraged. So I always have to put a disclaimer out there because I am merely a student sharing information. So I'm not claiming to be no master scholar. I'm not claiming to be no master teacher, no master educator. I am merely a student sharing information. This is my saying, my motto. As I learn, we all learn. This is a powerful statement to me. As I learn, we all learn. As I keep reiterating on each presentation, we should share whatever we learn. You know, that's the only way I feel like we'll be able to grow. If I know something that the next person don't know, then I should share that information with that person if it's going to help that person and it's going to help that person and that person's family, which will trickle down to our community, which will trickle down to our nation. So this, again, is a powerful statement. So as I learn, we all learn. So let's continue to share information with each other so we can build and we can grow as a family. All right, this here is my brother. I can't pronounce his name right, but this is one of my brothers right here. He changed his name, but everybody know him by Jehuti Bak Ma'at. So he's actually do this for a living. He's on his drums, you know, and his drum is the djembe drum. And we're gonna talk about the djembe drum in this presentation, as well as some other drums. But he is this is something that he went back. He's supposed to have this on a video that me, him, Benjamin Now, aka Black Panther, I Am My Brother's Keeper, did a presentation we did on the drums maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and he didn't get a chance to do it. So he did the video and then posted it up a while back here. So I got I Am My Brother's Keeper to take it off Facebook for me so I can insert it into this presentation. But here we go. So I just wanted to open it up with my brother playing the drums. Y'all give me just a second. Give me just a second. All right. Sorry about that. Peace, Shalom, Hotel Shalom. Will this be in YouTube as well? I am viewing on my phone. I will be receiving a call shortly. Yes, Sinet, Athea, once I get through with the video, it's going to be immediately uploaded to my YouTube channel. So you can see it later on tonight if you want to. Peace, Charlamagne. All right, family. African drums are one of the oldest instruments in the world. It was also an instrument used for communication. The drum was the heartbeat of the daily life among many indigenous cultures, including the native people of the African continent. The many different variations of the tradition drums were used for daily needs. The most mentioned popular drums was the Ngombo drum, the talking drum, the Kapalongo drum, and the djembe drum, which you just seen Jehudi Bak Ma'at just gave did his drumming presentation off of that. But we'll be talking about the hold on one second. All right. Sorry about the interruption. But we'll be talking, I'll be talking about the talking drum, the Ngombe drum, the Kapalongo, the Kapalongo drum, and the djembe drum in this presentation. Peace, Travis. So I'll be talking about those as many other drums as well. All right. The traditional African drum served as a musical instrument, objects for ceremonies, and a method of communication. Some drums were part of the everyday life, and others held specially significant, giving power to its own or created to honor the ancestors. In many instances, the traditional African drums are connected to the spiritual endeavors and the medical purpose. The drums are also roles of ceremony such as birth, weddings, funerals, rites of passages, rituals, ancestors, lower deities, creators / supreme beings, war of initiation, sacrifice, and festivals. Today's drums continue to be used in the African life. They are played in the baptism, wedding, festivals, and dance throughout the world. So you can see that the drum was used in the everyday life of our ancestors. You can see that just about everything that they did, the drum was incorporated in it. So I forgot to put war in there as well, because they incorporated piece to one that they incorporated the drums also when they went to war with other different people as well. So again, they incorporated it with the weddings, where the drums were there doing the weddings, the drums were there doing the birthing of the name ceremony. It was the drums was present during the funeral when someone has transitioned and went on into the agungun. As I stated, the rites of passage, which is the stages of life that our ancestors did, the rites of passages, which you can go on my page and get the rites of passage presentation I did and view it. Rituals, any types of rituals that they did, the drum was there. Ancestor veneration or worship, the drums were there. Lower deities is Hotel Tony Rice. The lower deities, like I practice Yoruba, so the lower deities would be the Orisha. So it would be the Orishas. If you're practicing Voodoo, the lower deities will be the Luau's. If it was the Akan, it would be the Absalon. If it was in Kemet, North Africa, it would be the Netcha'u. Peace, Anpu Ma'at Ra. And when they went to, which I did, I have it in here, war, reviewing the supreme being, the drums were there. Again, war, initiation, sacrifice, and festival. So again, the drums was the heartbeat of the culture. The drums was present in everything that our ancestors did. Give me one more second, y'all. I'm sorry. I keep having these small interruptions. Hold on. Let me turn this TV down. Yeah, put it down a little bit. It's too loud. All right. Sorry about that again. Hotep, Miss Ellen, Hotep Chester West. All right. Opening drums are single-headed with an opening at one end, and closed drums single or double-headed with no opening end, which I display at the top. In size, they can be tall or diminutive, like the tom-tom. In general, the bigger the drum, the lower the note, and the more tension on the head, the higher the tone. The higher the note. Excuse me. Wide drums are for basses. So you can see the brother here. Peace, Sister Sophie. You can see the drum here, the wide drum in the corner. This brother playing the drums, and you can see in his hands that they have the sticks. Most of the time, you will see the ancestors with using the drums as well as the feet. And in one of the presentations we had, someone mentioned about did we use drumsticks and so forth. So we use drums, but we also we use the drums, we used our hands, but we also use our feet. We also use different tools, what we call the drumsticks today, to make certain sounds on the drums, and it's particular drums that use these so-called what we call today drumsticks, but our ancestors did use some form of what we call drumsticks today. But they did not only just use their hands, they used their feet as well with these drums. And again, different drums, the different textures of the drums, how the drums made, the different skins, and the positions made different tones, how these drums, you know, saying how these drums came, how the tones were. And the tighter the head, which what I talked about is the tighter the skin on top of the drum, is the higher the note will be on the drum. Hotep Saber Wujao. The African drum were used as an alarm or to call two arms steering up emotions for the battle of war. As I stated in the Pacific slide, the drum was the heartbeat of the culture. The drum was used in everything that everything that you can imagine that our ancestors did. I mentioned so many different things I ran down the line, and war is one of them that they utilized the drums in. So it's telling you that the African drum was used as an alarm or a call to arms steering up emotions to battle and war. Certain assembly lines drums was used, you know what I'm saying, to strike certain emotions during the battle. They also inspire passions and excitement and trances and monetary loss of consciousness in either the drums or in the listener. And this is specifically talking about, as I mentioned, revering the ancestors. They use the drums to revere the ancestors. They revere the drums to revere and honor the lower deities. Again, as I stated, Hotep Senate Monica, if you practitioner in North Africa with the Remish, then the lower deities would be the Netchers. So as you calling on certain Netchers in certain rituals. Again, in the Yoruba culture, it would be the Orishas. In the Akan culture, it would be the Absalom, would be the lower deities. In the Voodoo, it would be the Luau's. Or, you know, are calling, going in these different trances. So these different trances of consciousness, especially during the ancestor honoring ceremony, where they say that the ancestors will possess them. I talked about this in my what is voodoo? Is voodoo from West Africa, and is voodoo what Hollywood and TV told us? If you hadn't looked at that presentation, it's on my Facebook page, and I talk about the possession, and I compare the possession of them invoking the ancestors in the Agungun, and them being possessed. No. This was in, I don't know, was this the voodoo or was the mask? I done so many different presentations. It might have been the mask presentation where they put the mask on. And once they put the mask on and they did certain rituals and evoked the ancestor, they would be possessed by the ancestors, and the ancestors would communicate with those who wore the mask doing certain rituals. So, and I can't remember exactly what the name of that presentation was that was dealing with the African mask, but you can also go to my YouTube channel, Kofi Piesie TV, subscribe and hit the bell, and you can look at that presentation. It was very informative. So it was on that presentation and not the voodoo presentation. All right, the symbols, they symbolize and protect royalties and offer houses and sacred dwellings. They are protected during battles. On the other side, drums are about communication and making music. Two essential characters of community life for centuries. The talking drums were a primary source of communication between tribes, used to transmit messages sometimes across the distance. So I'm going to talk about multiple drums, but I told you, I gave you the talking drum, the slit drum, the Kabbalah logo drum, and the djembe drum was the popular drum out of all of the drums in specifically West Africa. And the talking drum was primarily used for communication. And this drum can be heard for so many miles, and this is how they communication. This is why I headed the presentation as the African drum, the oldest instrument, the instrument of communication, and is the heartbeat of the culture, because the drum was the heartbeat of the culture because they incorporated in everything that they did, and they used the drums for communication. So you can say that the drums was the first form of what we call cell phones or telephones, because the drums communicated. Our ancestors said that the drums was alive, so the drums therefore was alive, so the drums spoke, the drums communicated to the people. And we're going to get into why our ancestors said that the drums were alive. And family, the drums are alive according to our ancestors. And again, we're gonna get into that, and we're gonna talk about that. All right. This is from the Encyclopedia of African Religion. This is in the this is in the book Encyclopedia of African Religion. I have the hard copy book and I have the PDF book. And this is here just a screenshot from out of the PDF book here. The drum is a musical instrument. Hold on, family. Let me digest for a second, because I got started because I wanted to try to go ahead and get started on time. And it's something that I always do when I started. I always introduce myself, and I always give thanks to the Netchers. I always give thanks to the Orishas, and I always give praise and honor and thanks to the ancestors. So I jumped ahead of myself when I got started in the presentation, and I wouldn't feel right if I didn't give honor and thanks to the ancestors before I have already started, but I don't want to go any further without giving thanks and honors to the ancestors. So ETM Hotep, and again, that's welcome in peace, because I want to have peace. N.E. Kofi Piesie, Dua, Hekanu in Ra, Dua Netcher, Fatmu Iwapele, Fatmu Alafie, which I've said bring in peace, bring forth peace, and bring forth good character. Again, we want to have good character in the chat, and we always want to exemplify good character at all times. And I kind of keep plugging myself. If you want to understand Iwa Pele, which is good character, go to my YouTube channel. I have a presentation called Iwa Pele and Ore Tutu presentation. So check that presentation out, and I kind of go into Iwa Pele and Ore Tutu, talking about good character. But I also Igun Mujube Ibai, Igungun Kiki, Igungun Mujube Oleran, Mujube Odemare. So I before, like I said, I had to stop and I had to do that, and I had to give honor and praise to the ancestors. Modupe. So let me get back to it. The drums is a musical instrument most commonly associated with African drums, comprised of membrane phones, family musical instruments. Membrane, shoot, I know I'm turning this word up, family. I want to try to get the word right. Membranophones produce their sounds by vibrations in the stretched membranes of skins. And I talked about that a while ago, the stretching of the skins on top of the drum. So the tighter the drum, the skin on the drum, the higher the pitch or the higher the tone on the drum. The drum can be traced to ancient Egyptian civilizations, and I wanted to put a drum from Kemet on there as well, but I forgot to go back and put the drum just to show y'all what the drum looked like in Kemet. So, and at the top of it is kind of cut off. It just talk about what the drums were made out of, 4 different types of wood. It was made out of different types of animals, such as the cow, the calf, the goat, and the antelope skin. So those was like the 4 different skins that the drum was made out of. The top of the drum was made out of those 4 different things. I talked about the sizes, what they talk about in here. I talked about the small size, the long size, and so forth. And we're going to see some drums that we have never seen before, because we always see the Pacific drums, the wooden frame with the top, with the animal skin on top of it. Peace, Ricky Funches, Hotep Senet Lisa. So here it says that the Congo or the Ashugu drum are examples, and we're going to talk about the Congo drum a little bit, and the cylinders of the consensual drums, burial hourglass, and it's just talking about the different shapes of the drums. Wasted drums, variations of the cylinder drums can also be either single or double-headed. The ends of these drums are usually the same size. The junjun, which is the junjun, this is a drum from Guyana, West Africa, and the dono, which we're going to talk about that, which is from Ghana, the drum from Ghana. We're going to talk about those drums. West Africans are popular examples of these drums. The goblet and the footed drums are single-headed drums. Single-headed drums. Single-headed, excuse me, family, for that. I had my phone. I'm trying to look on my phone on this device so I can see the comments and my phone run. All right. The juju drum, West African, is a popular example of this drum. The goblet and the footed drums are single-headed drums which are made of varieties of sizes, which we talked about on another slide. Footed drums are distinct in that they usually have legs, feet, and they are carved from a wooden bottom of the drum. The djembe drum, the jebe, which is from Guyana, West Africa, is popular example of the gumble drum family. Long drums, or all drums, are the elongated. These drums are typically single-headed and are very, very length and carved out of tree trunks. Long drums are called to be found as varieties of shapes of decoration. So we're going to see those types of drums, because I'm going to show some drums that I know that we normally wouldn't even know that these are specifically drums. Peace, sister Cammy. So we're going to see some drums that, specifically drums that we may not even know that they were, were drums. And these drums were used as our ancestors did use some form of what we call drumsticks. Again, like I know we talked about that on one of the presentations that I was on, but our ancestors did use certain certain sticks to assimilate a certain sound, or they had to use these certain sticks because of the way this similar drum, or this long drum, was made. And these sticks made a certain sound when you hit the tongue of the drum, what they will call the tongue end of the drum, which we'll talk about also. The frame is usually shallow and constructed. Hold on, make sure I ain't lost my place. Oh, shoot. Oh, okay. All right. The frame is shallow and constructed a little resonated of the drum. The tambourine is a popular example of the frame drum. Friction drums are made in varieties of shapes and sizes. These drums produce sound vibrations of animal skins by the rubbing of their fingers and cloth and cords, or a stink at a piercing of the animal skin of the drum. The kettle drums are made in a variety of sizes and are often played in pairs. These drums are consist of a single animal skin stretched over a vessel or a pot-shaped bottom. And again, family, they use cow skin, calf skins. They used antelope skins, and they used goat skins. The top of the frame of the drums. African drums are generally played with hands and combination of hands and strikers such as drumsticks, mallets, leather straps. Some African drums are played with feet, a combination of hands, feet. Music is an integral part of every aspect of life among Africans. African people. African employ music in the everyday life, whether at work, play, worship. In most instances where one finds African music, the drums is in present. And again, as I talk, peace, Richard Bruce, As I stated earlier, the drum was the heartbeat of the culture. The drum was implemented in everything that they did. The drum was present, even while they was working. I mentioned this also in it was in my Kwanzaa presentation I did when they was out reaping in the harvest, and as they reaped in the harvest, the drum was present. So I talked about that in my Kwanzaa presentation, where I actually showed that Kwanzaa was not a made-up holiday, that that it was went by different names when we talking about the reaping of the harvest. So I talked about that. So that's another presentation. If you want to look at, that's on my YouTube channel. You can go and look at that presentation as well on Kofi Piesie TV. The role of the drum is evident because it plays a very spiritual ceremony, such as baby naming ceremonies, rites of passages, wedding, installment, funerals, and you know, those are certain things I named on certain slides. So the combination of the drum, singing, and dancing is a major means by which many African cultures worship and interacted with the divine. These practices are prevailed throughout African culture. The Yoruba and the Nigeria and the Akan Ghana, West African provided such examples. In the Yoruba, Bimbi, and the Akan Akun spiritual ceremonies, drummers, singing, and dancing collective invoke the spirits of the ancestors, variation deities, and the creations of the music. So basically, this is talking about. Appreciate sharing the link into the for sharing the link in the chat. Send that, Lisa. So I'm not gonna read the rest of this, but I just wanted to give you another perspective off some of the slides off of that out of that book. All right, I talked about a while ago. I talked about our ancestors saying that the drum was alive. So we're gonna talk about stories, because a lot of the stories stories was made behind the drums, or how the drums were created, which we're going to talk about. Like in each cosmology in different cultures, you have what they call a cosmology or creation story, and you have certain creation stories that are surrounded around the drums. So we're going to talk about the creation stories, so forth, of how these drums was actually created. So we'll get into that, but this here is talking about our ancestors saying that that the drums was alive. And I can agree with that, because everything on this plane of existence is alive. Everything has a spirit, whether it's animated or inanimated energy. It has energy. Everything possesses energy, from Olemare or from Oleron, which are one and the same, or the Ashe from Oleron or Odemare. So everything on this plane of existence is alive. So this here is from Saber Raketi Amon's book. Everybody know who's Raketi. I hope everybody know who's Raketi Amon is. This is from her book, A Life-Centered Life Living Ma'at. Okay, this is on page Peace Hotel Sin Randy. Peace Steve. If I haven't spoke to you, try to speak to everybody in the group. Nigeria, 6 important drums of the Yoruba people. Yes, I named one of them in one of the other slides. One of the drums by the Yoruba people. I think I named the Bata drum, which we're going to talk about the Bata drum, but we're not going. I'm not going to touch on all 6 of the drums, because I want to try to stretch them out and touch on certain drums from different areas. But this is on page 9. It's in Saber Raketi Amon's book, A Life-Centered Life Living Ma'at states, and this is a great book as well. Small book, easy read, you know. So if you want to add a great book to your book collection, this is a good book to have. Here is the interesting ritual that was described to the author by the Ghanese artist named Kwame Nkrumah. He related that when drummers set out to make drums, his first considered the inanimate spirit of the tree. source of his wood. The tree is alive and therefore sacred. Before he fell, the tree before he felled the tree and the chops up the tree for wood, he poured libations and begged for forgiveness for this act. So you can see right there, as he was getting ready to chop the tree down for the use of making a drum, chopping the tree down to keep warm or to prepare food and so forth, they knew that the tree was alive. And in certain cultures, the tree, especially in the voodoo culture, a certain tree is a Pacific king of the forest and so forth when you're dealing with the voodoo culture. And trees in most of the African cultures, trees are very sacred. And we know our ancestors knew that everything exists. Everything on this plane of existence, again, possess a spirit or possess energy, whether it's animated or it's inanimated. So that's why I say I agree with our ancestors, because I understand that everything is alive. So as they get ready to prepare, as he get ready to prepare for the drum, or he get ready to prepare for food, or he get ready to prepare to keep warm, he's asking the tree, or they are asking the tree for forgiveness. And as they asking the tree for forgiveness, they is explaining to the tree why do they need this energy. This is the same thing that I talked about when we talked about sacrifice, and we talked about animals, and we talked about how the ancestors prayed over the animals, and they asked the animal for this certain energy, to receive this certain energy, because they needed this certain energy from this certain animal. And I know sometimes people look at it and say, oh, sacrificing animals and so forth in our African cultures. But even those that still prescribe to the Abrahamic faith, your books talks about animals. But even with dealing with animal sacrifice, at least our ancestors, they understood, and they asked these trees, or they asked these animals for forgiveness. They prayed over the animals. They talked to these animals and asked them why did they need their energy for exchange for certain things. And today, do we do that? We go out in the field and we do what? We kill animals. We hunt animals. So we go out and we hunt animals, and these individuals that are slaughtering these animals, that are shooting the animals, them, they're blowing the animals to pieces with these death tools that they're using, and so forth. And are they praying over the animals? Are they asking the animals to forgive them as they slaughtered them? No, they're not. Or when you're taking them to the meat market, and the meat market preparing them, or the meat market praying over them, or the meat market asking the animal for forgiveness? The meat market asking that they need this energy in exchange, but no, they're not. I just want to throw that out there. But again, the thing of pouring libations, we know in our culture we pour libations. And again, I did a presentation on pouring libations. So if you want to check out my presentation, I don't know exactly what the name of the presentation is, but it's pouring libations. And I talk about and go in depth with pouring libations. And I gave you and told you that you cannot, pouring libations, peace, Alvin. You also don't, we know that pouring libations, we pour libations for the dead, meaning we pour libations for our ancestors. We pour libations for those who have transitioned and went on to the Ikule Iran, what we call the invisible realm, or the heavens, or the ancestral realm, and so forth. So, and we do that in cultures, because I said we do that subconsciously. Those that don't even have a clue of their African culture and their traditions, it is embedded in your DNA. So we do it subconsciously, whether we know our culture or not. Again, as I stated in the other video, pouring libations, we do that with pouring liquor out to our dead homies. Everybody I know, majority of us that's on this, that's watching the video, then poured out some liquor to their dead homies. Then listen to this is for my dead homies, and I think it's another song I can't remember. I'm not for to sing it. but we do it unsubconsciously and don't even know where this come from. This comes from our culture called pouring libations. So even as they killed the animal or they killed the tree in this instance to prepare to make the drum, they asked the drum for forgiveness for their acts because they needed to prepare to make a drum, and they pour libations for the drum. They pour out libations for not for the drum but for the tree. And in my video, I talk about you can pour libations out to the Creator, the Supreme Being. You can pour libations out for those who have passed and have transitioned. You can pour libations out for the living. You can pour libations out for the lower deities. You can pour libations out for the Creator. All right. Before he fails, the tree chops up the tree for wood. He pours libation and begs forgiveness for this act. This act is done not only for the tree, but also for the sake of the drum, so that the spirit/energy of the tree will enter the drum. So this is why our ancestors said that the drum was alive, because again, everything on this plane of existence is alive. Everything has a soul. Everything has a spirit, whether it's animated or inanimated energy. So when we're talking about the spirit, we're talking about energy. So everything is alive. So and it says also for the sake of the drum, so that the spirit or the energy of the tree will enter the drum. So the drum has a spirit, or it has energy now. This is why they say that the drum is alive. Peace, my homie. The drum will speak to the people. When the drum is finished, a ritual called Ayan is played to awaken the drum. It is the music to please the spirit. The drum will be used by the people to do good. So this is why the ancestors said that the drum was alive. So I hope now that y'all understand what I was saying by the drum was alive, and y'all understand that everything on this plane of existence has a spirit or has energy, and you understand what is animated energy and what is inanimated energy. So the drum was used for communication. So the drum was alive. So the spirit spoke to the people. So again, the drum was used for a form of communication. And for those that just came on, I ran down the things that the drum was used for communication, and the things that they did where the drum was present in everyday life. No matter what you did, the drum was present there. If you went to work, the drum was there. If you did a ritual, the drum was there. If you went through initiation, the drum was there. If you went through rites of passage, the drum was there. If you went to war, the drum was there. So the drum was incorporated in everyday life. The drum communicated to different tribes. The drums communicated to the people that was in war to line up or assemble in a certain thing when they got ready to go to war. So the drum communicated. The drum was also used on the plantation. Yes, we took the drum with us when we was kidnapped in 1492 during the Atlantic slave trade and took into Portuguese, Spain, South America, the Caribbeans, and then later on into North America. But we'll talk a little bit about that, but I'm not going to go too in depth with that. But I will refer you back to a video that goes in depth with the drum in the Atlantic slave trade, us taking it and it crossing over into the United States, what we call the United States of America today, which is North America. We'll talk about, we're going to get into that. All right, blacksmiths. So let's talk a little bit about the blacksmiths. Peace, Eddie Malone. So let's talk about the blacksmiths and what type of role the blacksmith played. Peace, Dad. Peace. So let's talk about the blacksmiths. The blacksmith played a certain role in our African culture and our community. And I know people probably saying blacksmith. You know, we know blacksmiths are known for smelting iron and so forth and making tools, right? But the blacksmith were also used to make the drum. So, and the blacksmiths were revered in our culture and revered in our traditions. So let's talk a little bit about the blacksmiths and the role that it played in the communities in Africa. All right. The blacksmiths emerged in West Africa around 1500 BCE. They are feared in some societies for their skills in metal work. Again, we know blacksmith to be specifically metal workers, but in our culture, they did metal, and you know they created the drums and so forth. So considering from a form of magic, they are also much admired and hold high society status. So the blacksmith in our culture piece are Orundi branch. So in our culture, the blacksmith were held to the highest esteem, and the blacksmith was held in highest esteem because the blacksmith was a creator. It created things for our culture, for the society, and so forth. So it was revered in the highest status as possible in our culture, the blacksmith. So because of the trade, it is also specialized and dangerous. Right. The blacksmiths are often requisitioned by the towns and villages where there are none, Ross. Other ironworker societies, such as the Mandi people, this is the people in Mali, which is in West Africa, and the Batmas existing in West Africa also. And Nok people in Nigeria shows the art of the blacksmith. Now, the Nok people are in southwestern Nigeria, which is in West Africa, family. And the Nok people, they said that the Nok people was there before the Yoruba people came in, before the Yoruba people came in. And when the Yoruba people came in, the Nok people was already there in Nigeria. So this is one of the stories. If you want a little bit more information about that, go to my YouTube channel, Kofi Piesie TV, and I talks about that. I don't know in which one of the presentation, but it's the introduction of Yoruba. It might be the introduction of Yoruba part 1, but look at all three presentations: the introduction of Yoruba part 1, the introduction of Yoruba part 2, and the introduction of Yoruba part 3 that I recently did about 2 weeks ago. Hotep Senate, Any Haret, Peace, Patrick Martin. So the Nok people of Nigeria shows the art of blacksmiths, which dates back to the 6th century BC. Iron working made farming, hunting, and wars much more efficient. Iron allowed a greater growth in society. With the ability to support large communities came social growth and the development of large kingdoms which spread across West Africa. Throughout Nigeria, 2 more very important West African civilizations arose. The Ifa, which is the Ila Ifa, which I talked about in the presentation, the introduction of Yoruba, where I told you about Oduduwa. Oduduwa being the first king of Ila Ifa in West Africa, in southwestern Nigeria. And I talked about his sons that spread it out and created other different kingdoms, the 16 kingdoms by the 16 sons. I talked about that a little bit too in the introduction of Yoruba Part 3 presentation that I did not too long ago. All right. Throughout Nigeria, 2 more very important West African civilizations arose: the Ifa and the Oyo people of the Yoruba land. And Yoruba land consists of Nigeria, southwestern Nigeria, southern and central Benin, which used to be Dahomey, but after they defeated the French in 1962, don't quote me on that because I think it was 1962, 1942. I can't exactly remember, but as our ancestors defeated the French and kicked them out of West Africa and Dahomey, they renamed it to Benin. So south and central Benin, and Togo. So this makes up Yoruba land, are very similar in their spiritual and ritual beliefs. Both base their existence around iron work. These 2 African civilizations, iron had become the key to their development and survival. It was worshipped as such. The Ifa and Oyo people believed that the blacksmith had power to express the spirit of Ogun. So those that is a practitioner of the Yoruba culture, I am a practitioner of Ifa, which is in Yoruba. So when we talk about Ogun, Ogun is what people would say is a deity, but we know when we talk about deities or lesser deities or lesser gods, we're not talking. We're talking about attributes. We're talking about the forces in nature, you know. And I'm not going to go into explain the forces of nature, how we anthropomorphize the forces of nature, where our ancestors gave the human attribute to the wind. and named the wind Oya, and named the wind Oya and resembled the wind as a female, and told the story behind the wind so you can understand the forces of nature, or understand nature, because we are all a part of nature. We are nature. So Ogun represents thunder. Ogun represents lighting. Ogun was the creator of civilization. Hence the blacksmith. The blacksmith was the creator. He created things for our survival. So this is why they say that they would have the power of the spirit of Ogun, because Ogun represents thunder and lightning, but he also represents the creator of civilization. He also represents our courage. He represents justice. He represents peace, a peacemaker. He also represents an executioner. He also represents a protector. So they invoked that spirit of Ogun, the blacksmith. So they said the blacksmiths had the spirit of Ogun, the god of iron, because they created iron, which is the foundation for their survival. So again, the blacksmith was revered as a higher status in our African culture and our traditions. And the blacksmith not only dealt with iron, but he built the drums. And you had to have a special skill. You had to be taught this for a certain period of time, develop this skill before you can be able to be a blacksmith, or even create the drum, or to make the drum. All right, so now we're going to go in. I'm going to show you a video of African blacksmiths who they call the Numu. The Numu making the drums in West Africa. We're going to show a short-lived video. I don't know what you calling. Excuse me, family. I had a phone call. So hold on. Let me play this video. So just look at how they make the drums.
Beautiful.
Okay. Dang, I just cut the video off. I wanted to. Oh man. Uh, wanted y'all to see how they was making the video. I mean, make the drum. All right. Sorry about the video having problems. But I was trying to make the video. Am I still live, y'all? Am I still live, family? Yes, no. Am I still live, family? Okay. All right. Sorry about the difficulty. Let's talk about the drummer. From the culture to culture who plays the tradition, African drums varies. In some tribes, only those with a hereditary right to be a drummer or allowed to play the instrument, while among other people, drums were one instrument that could be played by anyone in the village. The drummer was often believed to become possessed by the spirit of the drum. Those are the drums makers, the animals whose skin wasn't taken for the drum head. Okay. The drum was often believed to become possession of the spirit of the drums. Those are the drum makers, the animals whose skin was taken from the drum head, and the three from which the wood came from the making of the drum shell. Okay. It's I kind of have a delay on my end, so when I was asking y'all yes is just not coming in, or T.O. just not coming in. But I thought I was off. You about to get fired. See that you always try to fire somebody. I can't help it. I can't help it. I'm sorry. I'm having technical difficulties a little bit, but just bear with me, family. Good show. Thanks for the invite. No problem. Sin. Peace to you, Dwayne. But okay, let me go back from the top with the drummer. From culture to culture, who plays traditional African drums varies. In some tribes, only those with the hereditary rights to be a drummer or allowed to play the instrument. So again, it's telling you that in some tribes, only those of a hereditary right has the drum or allowed to play the drum or instrument. Those families who have already previously played the drum, because in certain cultures, it's only a specific certain group of people that can play the drums, but in some other cultures, anybody can play the drum. All right. While in other people, drums were one instrument that could be played by anyone in the village. The drummer was often believed to become possessed by the spirit of the drums. Those are the drum makers and the animals whose skins was taken from the drum head, and the trees from which the wood came from the making of the drum shell. So again, as I stated, our ancestors said that the drum was alive. And as I showed you with one of the stories that was told in Ghana about them cutting the tree down, praying to the tree, asking the tree for forgiveness, and pouring libations out for the tree because it needed its energy. It needed it for the drum, or it needed it for to heat up food, or it needed it for warmth. And even the skin from the drum, we know the animal was alive, and the top of the drum used cow skin, they use calf skin, they use antelope skin, and they use goat skin on top. Those four different types of animal skins on top of the drum. All right. There are creation stories of how drums came into existence or created. I am going to let Brother Benjamin, now aka Black Panther, tell us one of the creation stories dealing with the djembe drum. As I talked about earlier, I told you that our ancestors said the drum was alive, And I explained to you everything on this plane of existence has a spirit or has energy, whether it's animated energy or inanimated energy. Everything is alive. This is why the ancestors, when they chop the tree down, or before they chop the tree down, this is what to get the wood for food or for warmth or for the drum. They will always pray, ask for forgiveness, and pour libations out. So, and I talked about the creation story. Each culture has a cosmology, has a creation story. No matter what culture you has, how things came into existence, how the universe came into existence, how the sun, the moon, the stars, the solar system, black holes, energy, matter, protein, Homo sapiens sapien, dirt, and so forth, how things came into existence. The drums have creation stories of cosmologies too, where how they came into existence or how they was created. At the bottom, I have go subscribe to Black Panther YouTube channel, and I'll talk about the video at the end also. So I'm gonna play a video. Hope that it play through and it don't get distorted, because I had too many. I think I had too many devices hooked up to my internet, my iPad, 2 laptops, cell phone, and another cell phone hooked up to it. So hopefully it'll play. So this here is Brother Ben. I'm gonna let Brother Ben explain it, the creation story here, and let me know if y'all can hear it. And this is from a show that we did.
What's going on? It's your favorite warrior, Black Panther. You know, in the building with some powerful brothers. We have come together to give y'all a little bit of information about the
hold on
today, or drum, for people that are not familiar with that term.
Let me go to it.
I got my brother.
I'm gonna have to skip to it.
From NBK that we coming for. So drumming was used on the battlefield as well. And it's something that, you know, a lot of people say, well, did drumsticks come from Africa?
Hold on, family. I'm trying to find. I'm sorry. I'm so unprepared here.
Any representations of that we coming for?
Hold on.
So,
and sorry for this, because I had the marker.
People say, well, did drumsticks come from Africa?
We'll just let it play right there for a minute.
My research, there haven't been
because I can't remember what the marker was.
Drumsticks being found. Not to say that we won't in the future, but you know, right now we don't have any drumsticks. So Africans use their hands. And if you ever are taught by a traditional African priest or a drummer or someone like that, he's not going to be using no drumsticks. But I get that question, so I wanted to address it. The how of the djembe is something that's covered in mystery, but there are, just like we have creation stories for deities, for like Ka or Ra or Shango, there are creation stories for the djembe. And I'm going to share one with you. And this particular story comes from the Yoruba people, and it talks about how the djembe came into being. It says, long ago, men did not know the djembe. In fact, the chimpanzees owned the djembe. At that time, before guns, there was a trapper named Edeyu. He was a leader of all trappers. The chimpanzees often came near his camp. One day, he went hunting and noticed the chimpanzees eating the fruit in the trees. They were entertaining themselves with a djembe. The hunter said, "This thing they are beating is beautiful. I will set a trap so I can acquire it." He dug a hole and laid a trap. The next day he heard the chimpanzees crying. The baby chimpanzees cried, the young chimpanzees cried, the old chimpanzees cried. The trap had caught the chimpanzee drummer. The hunter called his dog and went into the forest. The chimpanzees fled as he approached, leaving behind them the drummer. The drummer was caught in the trap with his drum. The hunter took the drum and brought it to the village. This is why the chimpanzees don't have the drum anymore and why they beat their chests with their fists. That's why they say goo-goo. It isn't a real drum that we hear today. It is a chimpanzee who has stopped breathing and is beating his chest. When the hunter arrived at the village, he gave the drum to the chief, who said, "We have heard the voice of this thing for a long time, but no one has seen it until now. You have brought it to us. You have done well. Take my first daughter for your first wife." From that day on, the person who played the djembe was known as djembe fola. That is how we got the drum. The chimpanzees of the bush were men who went astray. They had done wrong, so the Creator cursed them and they became chimpanzees. Together they no longer have drums and they have to beat their chest. So that's just a mythical creation story centered around the djembe. But you see the importance of the djembe in that story. You see how these chimpanzees cried when they lost their form of music. And if you think about it, if they were men that were turned into chimpanzees, the way they communicated was through the drum. So this once again speaks to how the drum is a great communicator. And the drum was so influential that the king gave his daughter to him. You know, just because this drum was so important. There are things called rhythm freestyles in Africa, in which you let the beat of the drum take you. In that aspect, you're not beating the drum is beating you, as they say. And it just takes you, it's kind of like, how can I explain it? Kind of like a runner's high. People that run know what.
So, family, I just wanted to play that clip. This is from a show that me, Brother Ben, Jehudi Bak Ma'at, which is the individual that I had playing the video in the beginning. In the beginning of the video, playing the drum. And I just wanted, like I said, each drum had a creation story, like how things came into existence. And as you paid attention and you listen, he talks about the chimpanzee, where these men was cursed, where these men were cursed and went into the forest, and the only way they could communicate was through the drum. They said the chimpanzee was the one that made the drum. So this is why the drum was so important. This is why we say the drum. This is a mythological story, but we're just giving you a mythological story behind how the drum was created and how the drum was used as a tool of communication, even through our mythos stories, and how the drum came into how the drum came into existence. And these drums were so important to the chimpanzee because they was using the drum that they created for communication. And then the drum was taken away from them, and they began to beat on their chest because their drums were taken away from them. But these men was cursed and turned into chimpanzees, and the only form of communication was through this mechanism they built called the drum. So that was one of the drum stories, the creation stories around the djembe drums. But there are many creation or cosmology stories about different drums in West Africa. But I just wanted to take that little snippet from a show that Black Panther did on his YouTube channel with me. I am my brother's keeper and Jehudi Bak Ma'at. Hotep Amen Ma'at Ra, Hotep Minka Shakim Ra, Hotep Abdullah Rockin' Roland. If you're still on here. All right, so let's get into some of the drums. This is the Bugarubo drum. This drum originated with the Zulu people in southern casamis. It is a long, slender drum with cow or antelope skin. So at the top of the drum here, this is where the skin will go. So, and again, I talked about they use the antelope drum. I mean, antelope skin. They used cow skin, calf skin, or they use goat skin. And this drum here, they used either the antelope or the cow skin on top of it. And this drum is in West Africa as well. The Gumbe drum. This is the African version of the conga and has an antelope or cow skin headed. It is a warm, mellow tone. So this drum here makes a warm or mellow tone. Doesn't make a loud tone, high pitch. This is not a high pitched drum. And again, it is made either with the antelope or the cow skin. Either one. Here is the dun-dun drum, a double-headed barrel-shaped drum with a cow skin. Dun-dun, or dijun-jun, duan, are bass drums and are played vertical with sticks or horizontals with a single stick. So I know I wasn't trying to play that while ago, but we played that little snippet when I was trying to find the marker where Brother Ben was talking about the creation story. But I know y'all probably heard that dealing with the sticks. And as I mentioned earlier, you know, what we call drumsticks today, our ancestors did use. I mean, we use certain forms of with our hand, but we play the drums with our hand. It's with our feet, as well as with these certain sticks that we call drumsticks today. So our ancestors did use these sticks, and they used these sticks to make certain tones and tones from the drum, or certain sounds from the drum. But it was mostly Pacific drums that they used for these sticks, and we're going to get into that because, like I said, I'm going to show some drums that you may not even know that they are drums, but they are drums. And some of the drums were not only just made out of wood, the side pieces made out of wood, but you had those that was made out of tin or made out of iron as well. So they was made out of animal skin at the top and tin or iron on the side. So you just didn't use wood. Majority of them use wood, but you know, it was one form of a drum that you use tin or iron on. All right, the dun-dun drum or a bass drum are played vertical with sticks or horizontals with a single stick. It says with a single stick. The other hands played an attached bell. They are traditional, most often played as a set of three or called the anbe or the dun-dun, large, sangban, medium, or kinkini, small. One person may play a set, or each drum may be played individual. Traditional accompanies the djembe to provide the base and the foundation of the rhythm. This form originated amongst the Malinke people in central Western Africa. The talking drum. And this talking drum, the talking drum, hourglass, and you can see how the shape of it is made like an hourglass. You can look at the top picture and the bottom picture. It is made like an hourglass. This is the talking drum. True historian talked about this specific. He talked about this drum as a drum of communication. All the drums were drums of communication, but he talked about this drum, I think, during the area of our ancestors being kidnapped and brought to various places. Okay, now check this out. Hourglass shaped drum that is squeezed under the arm to change the pitch. Different versions can be found over most of West Africa. The version on top is from Northwest Africa, northwest of Ghana, this in here, and it's called the dundo. The version below here is from Senegal, and it is called the tama. The talking drum was said that the tone could travel 4 to 5 miles, And again, as I talked about, the drum was used as a form of communication. So we would communicate with tribes far away. So we would deliver messages with the certain tones of the drum to different tribes. And also during slavery, our ancestors would use these certain drums, these talking drums, to communicate, to talk about, to deliver messages to other plantations dealing with slave revolts. That it's a slave revolt about to take place. So again, the drum was used for communication, and this drum was one of them, the talking drum. Peace, James Hawthorne. All right, the Keponlongo drum. The Keponlongo drum originated from the greater Accra region in West Africa. It is also known as a ceremonial drum. So this drum was used during ceremony or during their different ceremonies because of its excellence ability to create sounds that carried over long distance. The Keponlongo drum, which is also one of, I talked about 4 famous drums. And that was the talking drum, the one that I just shared, this in here, the Keponlongo drum, the djembe drum, and the other one is escaping my mind right now. It'll come back to me in a minute. But because its excellent ability to create sound that carries over long distance, the Keponlongo rhythm were often used as a way of communicating between tribes and family groups. So this drum was also used to communicate or deliver messages to the other tribes. And again, you could say that the drums was the first form of the telephone, the first form of communication. We know we use our cell phones to text or call. They are lines of communication to reach out to the other families and other places. So this is what the drum was used for, communication. The traditional Ghanese distended burial-shaped peg drums, it has an antelope skin. So the antelope skin is at the top. And as I stated, that the drums use antelope skin, cow skins, calf skins, or goat skins. Either one for the top of the drum. All right. This here don't look like a drum, but it's a drum. This is called the Udu drum. The beautiful Udu drum originated from Nigeria. Surprisingly, it begins not as a percussion instrument, but as a common clay pot made from carrying water. When a potter from the ancient Igbo tribe advertently made an opening in the side of one of his vase-shaped water vessels, he discovered a pot earthly musical sound, because some believe its hunting tone to be the voice of the ancestors. The simple side hole drum, scoped entirely from earth, water, fire, and earth, came to be an important part of religious ceremonies in southern and central Nigeria. Though the drums had different names depending on the regions in which it was used. Udu, which the Igbo name meaning both pottery, and peace in the tribal language. So this here is a drum here. So I told you I was going to show you some drums that you may not even know that are drums. And this drum originated in Nigeria as well. Okay, this is what they call the tongue drum. And you can see here that our ancestors used sticks. Tongue drum, this is a drum. Tongue drums, also called finger drums or hand drums, are either round or box-shaped pieces of material, usually wood, hollowed out with various tabs or tongues. I talked about the tongues at each end of the drum that I was going to show you earlier, that the stick that we call drumsticks now, that they use to hit to make different tones come out of these different drums. Hollow out various tabs, tongues cut out of the surface, so when the tongues is struck, the particular pitch will resonate out of the entire drum, which qualifies the tongue drum as the idophone. By cutting tongues of different lengths, you can get higher or lower pitch out of each one. from hitting those tongues on each end of this particular drum. Okay. I know this don't look like no drum. This here don't look like no drum, family, but it's a drum. And slit drum. This is another popular drum in Africa. I told you there was 4 major popular drums. There, I'm giving you lots of drums, but I'm showing you. I told you about 4: the talking drum, the slit drum, the djembe drum, and the kepologo drum. So this here is a drum. This was a popular drum. The slit drum is a hollow box shaped drum that has 1 or more slits on the side of it. They are thought to be the first drum that was created and are known to send messages through long distance communication, as a sound can travel further. So family, you can see it keep talking about sound and keep talking about communication. So this is why I named the presentation African drum's oldest instrument, because it is stated to be one of the oldest instruments created, and it is an instrument of communication and is the heartbeat of the culture. As I explained with other slides, that we use the drum was present in everything that we did. The drum was incorporated in everyday life. There was no time where the drum was not there. They are resonated chambers because none of the sides except the slits are open. The slits, also known as the tongue, it hits using a mallet to project the pitch on the drums. So they will use mallets to hit the side of it to get a certain sound or a certain pitch from the drum. And here is a picture of the slit drum, and they're holding, these guys here are holding what they call ivory horns. But you can see here, this brother here has the slit drum. And this is from the Magbiti tribe in West Africa. So you can see, so I wanted to give an illustration of that drum here. And they have the mallets. You see the mallets, and this is the mallets that they will use to get the certain pitch sound from these certain drums. All right, the kangba drum. The kangba drum, the kanga, also known as the tambadura, is a tall, narrow, single-headed drum from Cuba. The congas are starved like barrels and classified in 3 types: the quinto, lead drum, highest, tres dos, or the tres. How do they communicate with it? Like Morse code? Yeah, you can say that it was different messages that they used from the drums, the different tones and the sounds that they was familiar with, saying at least so that they will communicate with. Like they will use, like I talked about, they incorporated when they went to war. They used the drums. So they use the different drums and the different drum patterns or the different messages. So they will assemble in a certain way, or it'll make them feel to have this certain type of emotion that will come over them during war, during the plantation stage. They was used to send messages in a certain sounds that they used. They would knew that they was communicating as a slave revolt. You know what I'm saying? So it was different messages. So you could say such as a Morse code, send it. Okay. Won't play auto. Peace, Robert Ryan. I'm not playing a video, Sin. But you saying you can't hear me, or you thought audio was anyway, yes, and that Lisa, I hope that answered your question. Out, please, are so gifted and talent. Yes, we are so gifted and talent. Everybody see our talent, Senate Sophie, but us. Everybody is wanting to be us. Everybody is stealing our culture and our traditions, stealing our sciences, stealing our education. They stealing everything away from us and using it because they see value in it and they see how it's benefiting them. But we are running away from our culture. Even now, we have no excuse at all not to know our culture. We have information at our fingertips now, so it's no excuse. But every other culture understand the importance of our culture, but us. But like barrel classified into three types: the quinta lead drum, highest; tres dos or tres copos, middle; or tumba or salador, lowest. Congos were originally used in Afro-Cuban music genres such as Congo, hence the name. The rumba, which each drum would play a single drum. So this drum, they would use, I think these were barrels. The people, our ancestors, we know, during the Atlantic slave trade, we was taken to Portuguese, Spain, the Caribbeans, South America, and North America. The people in Cuba, they used these, I think these was drums. I forgot, I don't know if they housed sugar in these drums or they housed something in these drums. So our ancestor that was kidnapped and took into Cuba, they used this drum, they used this barrel to make a drum with. So this is how this drum was created. Musical genres as the Congo, hence their name. The rumba, where each drummers would play a single drum, following numerous innovations in conga drumming and construction during the mid-20th century, as well as the internationalization. It became increasingly common for drummers to play 2 or 3 drums. Conga has become a popular instrument. It is a popular instrument in Cuba. The djembe drum, and this is the djembe drum. I was trying to show the video of those making the djembe drum. They was actually cutting the tree. I wanted to show them cutting the tree down, actually them hollowing the tree out, cutting to make the shape, and then trimming it down into this shape form, and then traveling and then taking it and showing you how they incorporated the strings around the djembe, and them actually putting the animal skin on top of the drum. The goblet-shaped hand drum with goat skin. So this top is made out of goat skin. Sometimes thin cow or antelope. So it can either be made out of goat, antelope, or cow. Without a doubt, the most popular of African drums, the djembe, originated with the West African Malinke people, which is in Mali, who are spread across Mali, Guyana, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, if I'm saying it right. Excuse me if I'm not pronouncing it right. Sierra Leone, Liberia, Gambia, and Senegal played well. It was a wide range of sounds, and it is a powerful instrument. It is traditional supported by the Don-based drums, and provided both rhythmic accompanying and a melodic solo for the dancers. So this is the djembe drum, which is one of the popular drums. All right, I'm gonna try to play this video. Hope this video play. This is I wanted to play these elders playing the djembe drum. They're getting down too. Let me know if the video is playing clear and correct. All right, I just wanted to play the video by the elders, and they were jamming. I seen that, and I had wanted to just incorporate them playing the djembe drum into. So now let's talk about the bata drum. I know Senate Kaba mentioned 6 drums. Peace Artie, Peace Julian Hotep, Shylon again. So she talked. She mentioned several drums in the Yoruba culture, and I mentioned 4 drums from different areas, popular drums such as the slick drum, such as the talking drum, the djembe drum, and the kapalongo drum. And she mentioned several drums. I'm not gonna go into all 7 drums that in Yoruba. Okay, yeah. And like I said, I had like so many devices hooked up to my router, and this router's so weak, so that's why probably the other video didn't play thoroughly like this and did. I just had to turn the Wi-Fi off on some of those devices. But this here is the beta drum here. The beta drum is also a hollow wooden cylinder carved wood, glued, slit, and wood with 2 opening ends. Each are different diameters that are covered by special treated goat or cow skins. The skins are traditional Nigeria bata are attached to the body of the drum by the system of interwoven straps. And you can see the straps here on the side of the drum. You can also see the straps on side of the djembe drum that I showed a while ago. The djembe drum is similar carved in this fashion too, and somewhat in this fashion. But the djembe drum, excuse me, is bigger than this. But it has the intertwined leather straps on it as well. But the djembe drum starts at the top, and these here are intertwined at the bottom here. Okay, intertwined straps. The skins of the Cuba metal rings are tension rods. Both types of betas are played at both ends and sit horizontals on a lap of the beta drum. Peace, Josh. The traditional bata are played with leather straps wherever the Cuba batas are played by hand. That is the beta drum. Okay, I gave you, I think, about 10 drums. I could have gave you more drums, but presentation would have been just super long if I gave you a bunch of drums. So I gave you about 10 drums. I try to spread them out all through West Africa. Okay, the drums can be both musical instruments and sculptures. So our ancestors, we know that our ancestors used these drums, the different types of drums, for different tones, for different messages, and the drums were used for communication, right? So again, the drums we could say would be the first forms of our would be the first forms of communication, what we would call the cell phones. Today we use the cell phones to communicate or text with. So our ancestors used the different tones, the high pitches, to communicate. And as we stated with one of the drums, the talking drum, also the slick drums, the tone, you could hear the tone from 4 to 5 miles away. So from 4 to 5 miles away. So we use to communicate the drums from miles away. We also use the drums to communicate with the ancestors that are in the Egungun, those who have transitioned, and use them in everyday life form of communication. We even use them in slave revolts, where we will communicate to other plantations by the certain tones that the other plantations will hear, know that there's about to be a slave revolt. But the drums were also not only used for musical instruments, you know what I'm saying, for dance and so forth through our ceremonies and stuff, because we are rhythmic people, but they were used for sculptures. So they was not only used for just drumming, they were used for sculptures. Images can refer to proverbs, cultural traditions, and a way of behaving, reflect values that are important to communities. They can feature anthropomorphic images like feet, hands, female breasts, humans, human backs, human heads, as well as full squatted figures that carry the drums on their back. So a lot of these sculptures, you will see they will have the drum carried on their back, but they wouldn't be used for music. They wouldn't be used to communicate with the ancestors, to communicate with the creator or the supreme being, or for communication for war, or for communication with different tribes. They was used for proverbs. They was used for cultural traditions. They was used for reflecting values. And we're going to show some of these sculptures, because I didn't want to just show the drums and not show the sculptures, because we don't talk about the drum sculptures. We always talk about the drums and not the sculptures. So these Hotep Asar Imkar, these motifs can be symbolic, carrying great spiritual meanings, or they can just be decorated and tell a story. Female imageries are often used to invoke fertility. So let's get into some of them. Here is a sculpture drum here. A beautiful carved large Ngami drum from Vadal, Limpopo, used for ceremonial purposes. So this is one of the sculptures, not used for drumming, but it is a drum sculpture. Here is another one. And again, we talk about them being the sculptures with the drums being carried on the back. This is an African sculpture, African sculpture drum from Nigeria. So this is one. This sculpture is from Nigeria. Here is another sculpture. This is an African elephant wood djembe drum sculpture from Mali. And again, you can see it's carried on his back. Every picture I show, as it stated that the sculpture will have the drum on the back. Here is another African sculpture drum. This is from Ghana. This is another sculpture. And again, these are just sculpture surrounding proverbs, different customs and traditions around these sculptures, not used for drumming or for communication. All right. Now, this slide here, I want to talk about this slide here. And before I talk about this slide here, Sin Shun directed me to True Historian, who is a member of NBK, New Black Knowledge Group. And he directed me to his drummer presentation. So I got this piece of information from him. I also contacted someone from the NBK group as well to notify him, and they gave me the okay that it was all right to use this piece of information here, because I thought this was an appropriate, I think this was some good information to share as well, because I told you after the drum was the heartbeat of the culture. It was no time where the drum was not. When we did ceremonies, the drums were there. When we did rites of passages, the drum was there. When we got married, the drum was there. Doing birth, the drum was there. The birthing of the name, the drum was there. When we went to war, the drum was there. And so many other aspects. In initiation, the drum was there. So that was a part of our culture. That was a part of the everyday life. It was the life of our ancestors. And our ancestors took the drum with them when they was kidnapped. So I'm saying all this about that because I know how the community can be sometimes and say, I stole somebody's information. Oh, you got that from True Historian. Yes, I did get this slide from True Historian. This is some vital information that he threw out there that I had no clue about. So I'm throwing it up. So I wanted to resurface the information here that he talks about on this slave ship here. So we're going to go into that. Alexander, which made me go and do some more research on this guy here and some more research on this thing. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I know how some of our family can be sometimes and try to tear a person down, you know. And so, but anyway, Alexander Falcon Bridge, a surgeon abroad, slave ship, a later governor of British colonies for freed slaves, Sierra Leone often vivid account of the Middle Passage. So Alexander, he was a surgeon. So a lot of the people that were shipped out on the slave ships had surgeons on there because they had the surgeons on there, and he voyaged 4 or 5 different ships on different occasions where he was on the ship. So this here is an account from him being on the ship, and this is the first count of hand of Alexander Falcon Bridge saying what he's seen on on the slave ships. And he was also there to try to keep the slaves healthy, because no one wanted to buy damaged goods, because, they treated our ancestors as livestock, treated our ancestors as commodities, as accessories, and so forth. So no one wanted to buy damaged goods, so forth. And I hate to reference my ancestors as that. And so the surgeon, or his job, was to make sure that the slaves was in good shape and was healthy, so that it could be sold. So he, she, or a child could be, can be sold, can be considered as a good commodity. So that's why why the surgeon was on board. So this is what he says: exercising being deemed necessary for the preservation of their health. They are sometimes obligated to dance, and weather will permit their coming on deck. If they go about it reluctantly or do not move with agility, they are flogged. A person standing by them all the time with a cat o' nine tail in his hand for the purpose. Their music upon the occasion consists of drums. Sometimes, and you hear it, it says, their music upon these occasions consists of drums. So you can see that the drums was also on the slave ships. So they was brought on board during the time, which I'm gonna give some other information with the reference also of where True Historian got the information from, and some information I got for as Alexander for Gunbridge, with a publication and an article that he also written, and he written a book. So I'm going to give you that additional information that I got that goes into a little bit more in the depth of who Alexander von Bridge was, and some of the other things that he's seen on the slave ship, and what they did to the slaves, and when they brought the slaves out and they exercised and they did certain things with dancing and things that they did to try to utilize the health, and certain horrific conditions that he seen that passed diseases, and the things that he did to try to stop the diseases and so forth. And what did they do that he seen on first account when the slaves refused to eat and so forth. So that article or that piece of from his book, which I think is about a page or two, it's at the back of my reference. So I'll share that with y'all if y'all want to go and read a little bit further on this. But it says, if they go back into reluctantly or do not move with agility, they are flogged. A person standing by them all the time with a cat o' nine tail in his hand for the purpose. This music upon this occasion consists of drums. It says drums, sometimes with only one head, and when that is worn out, they make use of the bottom of one of the tubes before described. The poor wretch and frequently compelled a sing also, but when they do so, their songs are generally as may naturally be expected, melancholy lamentations to their exile from their native country. So I wanted to throw that in there because that was some great information that True Historian throwed up, made me go do some research on an individual and read some of this guy's book and read some of his publications. I think I read like 2 or 3 different publications on this guy and some of his firsthand account on certain things that happened on the slave ship, and how many times he voyaged the slave ships, and what was his role on the slave ships, and what was his role after all of this. He became a governor, and then he became an abolitionist, where he fought to free some of the slaves. So all of that is in the article that I'll give. When first brought to North America during the 1600s and the 1700s, slaves from the West Coast Africa used drums to communicate with each other in much of the same way as they did at home, sending code rhythmic messages. That should answer your question too, Sinette Lisa. Messages Europeans could not understand over long distance. In this way, slaves held in different encampments could stay in contact, and rebellions could be planned. But after some time, the master realized that the drums could talk. They started to realize that wait a minute, these people are communicating with each other. They are communicating with this drum is a communicator for them. So after the drums was considered the drums was, and then after they realized that the drum was considered a weapon, and it's absolute necessary to the safety of this providence that all due to care to be taken to restrain Negroes from using or keeping the drums, which may call together or give signs of notice to one another of the wicked design and purpose. This is from the Slave Code, South Carolina, Article 36, 1740. All right. Starting on the plantation in Carolina, in Georgia, the band song spread it across the United States. The band spread it across the United States, but it started in Carolina, family. Without drums, slaves used whatever was around to make beats. They weren't gonna stop us from beating on stuff. Spoons, washboards, furniture, and their own bodies with hands clapping drums and various surfaces of bodies, patting Jews, and foot stomping and shuffling. True Historian goes a little bit more. He goes more in depth into this. I just only looked up the slave codes in South Carolina and got this information out of the slave codes of South Carolina, with the banding of the drums, where it started with in South Carolina, and then it spread it all over the United States of the drums being banded because the slave owner realized that we was using this drum for communication. These tones could go from plantation to plantation. All right, and I'm about to wrap it up. And doing the band doing the band where it spread it all over, where the band spread it all over the United States. And in a particular time, the Congo Square, and I know True Historian, he talks about this information too, Peace Paula, but I had already had this slide here, where I, Peace Nagaza said, me and sister was Senate Sister Kaba. She's from Louisiana and she stays in Louisiana. And a couple of weeks ago, she was sharing some information about the Congo Square to me, and she was just sharing a lot of information about the Congo Square. And I was like, okay, there was some important information that I don't even know. And I've been to when I was telling her, I've been to New Orleans so many times, and I've never been to the Congo Square. And I've been to the Mardi Gras festivals. I can't count how many times I've been to the Mardi Gras festival, which the Mardi Gras festival is coming up this month. You know, it's always in February. And I have been to so many and never knew where the Mardi Gras festival stemmed from or originated from. So she just gave me a whole bunch of information on the Congo Square. I just sat back and listened to her talk about it. And I was like, wow. And I had told her that I was going to do a drum presentation. And I was like, I'm going to use that information in there, try to use that information in there somehow. So it says here, New Orleans, Louisiana was the only place the United States where slaves could legally play drums and dance, and thus was in the Congo Square, which is in New Orleans. The Congo Square is my brother True Historian made aware of the drum information in the Congo Square. Yep. The Congo Square is vicinity of a spot which Homans Indians used before the arrival of the French. And we know that the French in Spain was in New Orleans at one time for celebrating their annual corn harvest, and was considered sacred grounds. The gathering enslaved Africans ventured in the Congo Square originated earlier as the late 1740s during the Louisiana French colony period, and continued during the Spanish colony area of one of the city public markets. And I'm gonna share a article with y'all too on this, that's stating that during this time, I think it was in the 18th century, where the New Orleans was the only place where the drums was not illegal, and they came and used the drum and danced and created. And I'm gonna go a little further, but we know that the only time was on Sundays. The only time that our ancestor that was kidnapped had time off from the plantation was on Sundays, while the slave masters went to church and so forth. So this was our time out. So our ancestors gathered in the Congo Square in New Orleans, where the drums was not illegal in New Orleans, and this was the only place that the drum was not illegal, was in New Orleans in the Congo Square. So let's go a little further, but I'm gonna share an article with y'all so y'all can go at the end of my reference, so y'all can go a little bit further and read the article and then do your own due diligence of research, you know what I'm saying, and see how all these things came into place, and the different, and even go into the different slave revolts to see how this stuff came about after they realized that the drum was we was communicating with our ancestors, you know what I'm saying, or communicating with other plantations, specifically with other things, but also dealing with slave revolts. And I started to give a list of slave revolts, but I forgot to throw that in there too because it's already too long. But anyway, this is the last slide, family. So let's get on back to the Congo Square. And the Congo Square originated early in the 1740s during Louisiana French colony period, and it continued during the Spanish colonial era. And again, we know that the French and Spain was in New Orleans at one point of time. Spain area one of the city's public markers. And by 1803, the Congo Square had become famous for the gathering of enslaved Africans who drummed, danced, sang, and traded on Sunday afternoon. As I stated earlier, this was the only time that our ancestors had off when they was on a plantation, was on Sunday when the slave master went to church and so forth. So this was our days to gather together, to congregate, to talk, to dance, to play the drums, and so forth. By 1819, they gathering numbers of many of 500 to 600 people. Among the most famous dances were the Bambula, the Kalinda, and the Congo. These African cultures expressed gradually developed into Mardi Gras. So a lot of people that's here, that's practicing the Mardi Gras, that's going to the Mardi Gras festivals. Like I said, I have been to New Orleans. I can't count how many times, but I've never been to the Congo Square. I have participated in the Mardi Gras festivals so many times. And again, the Mardi Gras festival is getting ready to come up here. It's always in February. And I never knew the roots or where did the Mardi Gras festival stem from. So the Mardi Gras festival stem from, stating here, it stems from our ancestors back in the 1718, during the 18th century, gathering in the Congo Square with their drums, drumming, dancing, congregating with each other, fellowshipping into other, and then so forth and so on. 500, 600 people started the assembly in there, where they created certain famous dances that was implemented into culture, which gradually developed into the Mardi Gras festival that they celebrate every year. Indian traditions, the second line, where you get the second line from, those in New Orleans, you know well about the second line. Sister Kaba talked about the second line a little bit. And eventually New Orleans jazz developed the New Orleans jazz, rhythm and blues. So all this comes from out of the Congo during our ancestors having time off from the plantation. So I wanted to share that information. This here is a few names of the drums in Mali. I'm not going to go through the names. I'll just let it sit here for a second because I've been on here well over too long. But I wanted to share this information with y'all. So these are the different names of what the drums will be called in Mali, what the drums will be called in Ghana, what the drums will be called in Guyana, what the drums will be called in Nigeria, Central Africa, East Africa, South Africa. You can go back later on and re-review the video which will be uploaded immediately after I get off of here to Kofi Piesie TV. You can pause it and you can go through the names and see what our ancestors called these different drums. All right. Recommended videos on African drums to watch. Now, the djembe discussion on Black Panther YouTube channel. So go to Black Panther's YouTube channel, and I gave you an insert of Black Panther on the show with me. I am my brother's keeper, and I forgot to put Jehudi Ma'at right here. I was trying to spell his new name, which I did. Can't pronounce his new name. I just should have just put Jehudi Ma'at because that's what everybody knows him by. So we did a show about 2 or 3 months ago on Black Panther YouTube channel where we talked about the djembe drum. But on this presentation, I talked about various drums. This is another one, Give the Drummer Some by True Historian. on New Black Knowledge YouTube channel, as I stated. So go look at that video and go subscribe to those brothers to Black Panther channel. Subscribe, hit the bell, check out the presentations and other things on there. Give the drummer some. That was the name of True Historian, which he's a member of the New Black Knowledge. So go subscribe to the New Black Knowledge channel. It's a bunch of information on that channel as well. So please support, subscribe both YouTube channels. All right, these are my references. My references are the Life Center, Life Living Ma'at by Raketi Amen, which I showed earlier, where we talked about our ancestors prayed and begged for and asked for forgiveness before they cut the tree down. And they said that the drum was alive, and they did a certain ritual called the Enya, which transferred the energy from the tree over into the drum. That's why they said that the drum was alive, because our ancestors knew that energy exists in every and all thing on this plane of existence, whether it's animated or inanimated energy. Everything has a soul. Yes, thank you, Senator Lisa, for putting it in there. Please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Here is another Encyclopedia of African Religion by Molufe Kente Ashanti and Ama Mazamba. I have used this book plenty of times in a lot of my presentation. It has so much information in this book, man. I mean, it's an expensive book, but I have the PDF and the hard copy book. Here is an article here on the drums, on the contemporary drum African. This was on the art, so I showed the art. So I showed you the different art, so we know that they also use the drums as sculptures. So they know they use it as an art form for sculpture. It was not used for drumming, for a musical instrument, or for communication. It was used for proverbs and other things. So I showed you the drum sculptures. The digital history edu textbook. So, and this is actually talking about Alexander, the guy I was talking about, the surgeon. So this is an article where it goes in, where he talks about him being on a slave ship, how many times he was on a slave ship, what was his role on the slave ships, and some of the first-hand accounts that he's seen on the slave ships. And I don't know if this article, but it's another article on here that also talks about his life, him being an abolitionist. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong. Where he wanted to free the slaves, and he became a governor in Great Britain and so forth. The transatlantic slave trade, WordPress, bibliography important on the slave trade. So this is the other one where he talks about him freeing, becoming an abolitionist, and him becoming a governor of British. So those are two articles right there, information that you can go and see that refer to the exercising, the drum being on there. But it goes in some other first-hand accounts of things that he's seen that they did when the slaves was didn't eat, when they brung the slaves on top of the deck to exercise. Why did they exercise? What did he do to strengthen their muscles? What type of foods they fed them, and some other diseases. The way they used the bathroom. He described the way they used the bathrooms. And how they caught some diseases. So those are good articles. This in here is the blacksmith on Wikipedia. I just wanted to tell you about that the blacksmiths, I know we resort to blacksmiths being metal workers, which they are, but blacksmiths was also treated a certain way in society. And they was also, blacksmith was the one who created the drums. So that's Wikipedia. That's on Wikipedia. So you can Wikipedia blacksmith of West African, and then it gives you the blacksmiths that it talks about the people in Yoruba, Nigeria, Ghana, those blacksmiths and so forth. Spiritless.com, culture African list of different types of African drums. I got some of the information from the drums that I showed on the different slides, the different types of drums, what they look like and so forth. I got some that information off of there. OurPast.com, facts of African drums. I got some information from the drums from off of there as well. And I don't know exactly what this article was at the bottom, but these are my references. I have plethora of references in here, so these are my references. Vent my references, go to my references. I have no problem with you critiquing my information. I have no problem with suggestions. I have no problem if I made a mistake going back and recheck it and putting the right information out there if I got the information wrong. Okay. With that said, please go subscribe to Kofi Piesie TV YouTube channel. So those that peace Lucy. So those who have not subscribed to my channel, please go subscribe to Kofi Piesie TV, family. Please go out and support your brother. And also here I says, stay tuned. I will be back tomorrow on my channel. I won't be on Facebook, but I'll be on my YouTube channel to do another presentation called Moriri Igbi Kali. And this Moriri, it means appreciate or appreciation. Igbi Kali means presentation. So this is my appreciation presentation. So it's called, and these are Yoruba words. So the Moriri Igbi Kali presentation will be tomorrow on my YouTube channel, but I'll put the link in all the groups, and I'll put the link in my on my Facebook page. You can click the link, and the link will send you directly to my YouTube channel. And I'm going to go live about 6 o'clock to do this presentation. It's going to be a short presentation. And I'm asking that Senate Lisa, I'm asking that Senate Monica, I'm asking that Sini, Harek, Sean Khalifa, I'm asking Senate Kaba, I don't know if I'm in Ma'at Ra still on him, but I'm asking I'm in Ma'at Ra to tune in. I am my brother's keeper, Brother Benjamin, and so forth. This presentation, Moriri Igbi Kali, is a presentation, a short presentation about these individuals. So I'm going to talk about these individuals. I'm going to show some slides. I'm going to show some other information to incorporate around these people who has affected my life in a positive impact. It's not going to be a long presentation like this presentation was. It's going to be short to the point. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to have a little information, but it's not going to be too much information on there, but it's going to be some information on there surrounding these individuals. So tune in tomorrow on my YouTube channel at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Those people names that I call, I'm missing some people. Send that Lisa. Your name is on there as well. So be tuned in, send that Lisa, because you are in the presentation as well. So tune in tomorrow, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on Kofi Piesie TV. And if you hadn't subscribed to my channel, please go subscribe to Kofi Piesie TV. Support your brother because I support you. And I do it for not only myself, because it's a learning process for myself, but it's also a learning process for you. So again, as I learn, we all learn, family. So stay tuned for tomorrow. And I'm not going to do a presentation next week because I'm doing 2 back-to-back, but I will have a guest on my show that's going to be talking about, and I'm hoping everything goes well, because the last guest that was supposed to be on my show, it fell through, and I don't know when I'm going to have this guest on the show. So I'm going to just leave it up to that individual. I'm going to let him come back to me, you know, if the individual want to be on the show. But this brother, he's going to talk about the Dominican I wanted him to come on the show and talk about why the Dominicans frown on the Haitians, and why the Dominican Republicans or the Dominicans do not embrace their African roots. So he's going to break that down. It's going to be a nice discussion, a nice topic. So I'm trying to get all my questions together for that discussion. That will be at 6 p.m. Sunday on my channel. The brother name is Cuban Crisis. So Brother Cuban Crisis is going to be on the channel Sunday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, to talk about the Dominican Republicans and why they do not embrace their African roots. I don't know what we're going to title the show, but that's what the show is going to be surrounded. So I'm going to be asking the brother questions, and then he's going to be discussing and going in on certain things. So he's probably going to be breaking down from the slave trade to them over there, and, you know, incorporating certain things over there in African culture. And, you know, so he's just going to break that down for you. So stay tuned for that too, though. That's coming up on Sunday. So I'm keeping my hands crossed. So hopefully that guest will come through on this Sunday. And on that note, family, I want to say Shem Imhotep. I want to say Dua Duau Abeti. I want to say Modupe Dupe Pupu, which I said depart in peace, or go in peace. Thank you very much. I also said it in the Yoruba language. Modupe means thank you. Modupe dupe means thank you very much as well. So about Hotep family, and I see y'all on tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. That video, that presentation will not be long as this one. I appreciate y'all for staying on as long as you can to watch the video. I'm finna upload the video to the channel now, so I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Or Moriri, 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 which means appreciate or appreciation. Peace, family. And I'm gonna leave y'all with the introduction video.
Man in the full knowledge of himself is a superb and supreme creature of creation. When man becomes possessor of the knowledge of himself, he becomes master of his environment, the captain of his own ship, the director of his own destiny, the accomplisher of his own ends. Man should understand himself because man is full of knowledge, and this knowledge is a gift of nature. When Mother Nature created man, she deprived him of nothing. He was given the faculty of understanding all things around him. This faculty for understanding has not been taken away from him. None of his senses have been taken away from him. So there is no excuse for the black man.
Raising my team, red, black, and green, queens and kings, salute, now scream, I shade, spring from another end, I shade, five for different frequencies.
Oh shit.
I'm raising my team, red, black, and green, queens and kings, salute, now scream, I shade, spring from another end, I shade, five for different frequencies.